Sonic Adventure 2 was released in 2001 and was the last first-party game for the Dreamcast, and it's not often looked upon fondly, and this is particularly for its cutscenes, which are often mocked and accused of being really janky, with poor dialogue and script, and localization issues. And I think that is unfair when looking back at it and seeing that Sonic Adventure 2 was really a pioneer of the cutscene. It was one of the first to do actually what I think a good job, and I think the game is looked in often in a negative light because of the cutscenes, when actually I think they aren't as bad as people make them out to be. So today I'm going to make it my duty for Queen and Country, man and woman, to defend Sonic Adventure 2 and its cutscenes. And I'm going to have a look at the game's cinematic, narrative, and at times comedic value, and see why the game is certainly not as bad as people make it out to be for its cutscenes. I want to first look at the light story, which starts off with Sonic jumping out of a helicopter, and I think it's just a fantastic opening scene of a game.
Sigma Alpha 2 heading due south over the city. We're en route. Everything's a go.
This is Control Tower. We have you on radar. Report cargo status of captured Hedgehog aboard. Over.
That's a 10-4. Cargo secured on board and... What?
Didn't copy that.
Hedgehog is
Over.
gone. He's taken out everyone aboard and...
What's wrong?
What in the
Come
world?
in. Over.
Freeze! What do you think you're doing? Get that Hedgehog!
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
I think this first cutscene succeeds in setting up the story and the character for Sonic, being a bit of a guy with attitude, and for a first-time player, you know exactly what he's about by his infamous line,
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here.
I mean, it's totally cringe, but at the same time, it's pretty charming, and I know people who haven't even played the game who actually know the line, so it shows how it's kind of gone down in history for being quite an infamous opening line for a character. That also, the cinematics are quite good. I mean, the filming angles, that kind of thing, if you're looking at it from a critical point of view, they're pretty good for a 2001 game with early experimental cutscenes, that kind of thing. And it sets up the threat for the first few chapters quite nicely. So overall, it's a solid cutscene. I rate it an 8 out of 10. The next cutscene I want to have a look at is one often criticised by YouTube reviewers, and I think unfairly, because the scene definitely has more strengths than weaknesses.
What?
It all starts with this. A jewel containing the ultimate power.
That's the Chaos Emerald. Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you. So, where do you think you're going with that emerald? Say something, you fake hedgehog!
Chaos control!
Wow, he's fast! Hey, it's not his speed, he must be using the Chaos Emerald to warp.
Shadow. I'm the world's ultimate life form. There's no time for games. Farewell!
Shadow, what is
Oh, stay where you are. Keep your hands up.
Not again.
This scene successfully sets up the rivalry between Sonic and Shadow, showing Sonic is both jealous and clearly flawed in some ways, as he sees Shadow as something lesser when maybe he should be treating them more as equals. And we know this because Sonic calls him a fake hedgehog, which has been taking the piss out quite a lot, because many see that as a problem with the game and the setup and the start of the game, as people are like, well, how could Sonic be mistaken for Shadow. They look completely different, but I think a way to debunk that is it's all caught on news footage and eyewitness accounts, and Sonic was seen around in like Adventure 1 and around the city in Adventure 2 in the day with gun chasing after him, and so it's not too much of a far stretch to think that maybe people just got mixed up and Sonic is really just getting tied into all of this when Shadow's the one to blame for all the miscommunication and stuff. And it sets up a mystery around Shadow, because at this point no one knows who the fuck he is, but he's clearly like an equal to Sonic's, like standing on top of Bigfoot proud and like as if he's the one who's defeated it when Sonic was the one who defeated it. And it shows that maybe Shadow is also kind of wary of Sonic and his power for defeating Bigfoot too, and to compensate for the fact that he didn't defeat it, he stands on top of it proud. And not only that, but it uses good cinematics in the scene, especially in the part when Shadow and Sonic are passing each other and look at each other, which is kind of reminiscent of the start scene where they both are in front of the moon. And not only that, but it sets up the Chaos Emeralds to someone who's never seen the Chaos Emeralds before. So for new time players, it kind of establishes what they are and what they kind of work on and how powerful they are. So overall, I rate this scene a 9 out of 10. I think it's really good and it really leads into the game really well. Not only that, but to add an extra point, some believe, I've looked up kind of like people dissecting this cutscene a bit. People say that Gun is a bit like America in some ways, with them overcompensating in a military sense for everyone surrounding Sonic, when there's only one of him and like hundreds of them with shit tons of like robotics and stuff like that. People think maybe you could compare that to America in some ways. The next scene sets up both the quest for Knuckles and Rouge to find bits of the Master Emerald, and also sets up the relationship between Rouge and Dr. Eggman.
Just let it go. You just don't know when to give up, do you?
What are you talking about? That emerald's mine. You got that? The Master Emerald contains special powers that neutralize the energy of the Chaos Emeralds. That makes it very powerful. What the?
What? Thief?
Look who's calling who a thief. I came here following the signal from the Emerald. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Master Emerald signal. Dr. Eggman.
So that's Dr. Eggman.
Well, I guess I can use it for something. I'll just take it with me. Farewell, Knucklehead. Not if I can help it.
What was that all about? And look what you did to my emerald!
I did that to prevent the Master Emerald from being stolen, you idiot. If it's in pieces, I can restore it. And by the way, that's not your emerald. Doesn't matter. I'll bring to it once I get back to the base.
I despise anyone who takes jewels from me. All the world's gems are mine to keep.
Yeah, we'll see about that, Batgirl.
This next scene sets up the relationship between Knuckles and Rouge quite well, because it not only sets up that they're both really argumentative and kind of stubborn and kind of bitchy, because they do sound like two bitching girls on a primary school playground, but it also sets up some kind of sexual tension that is developed upon later in the game, which is kind of weird for a kids game. So I don't know if I can give this scene the highest score for that, but I think it's still something to note. And it not only that, but it sets up the relationship between Dr. Eggman and Rouge, and kind of shows that they've got a thing going on, even without him being too involved in the scene and what Knuckles and Rouge are doing. And of course, Knuckles is oblivious to this. Not only that, but it sets up, much like the Chaos Emeralds were set up in the last scene, it nicely transitions into setting up the Master Emerald, where kind of showing new players some previous Sonic lore that is a need-to-know basis for this game, I guess. And It also does, I noticed it does something quite well where it moves from exposition and dialogue and Knuckles talking about the Master Emerald right into action afterwards, which shows some really good pacing actually in the scene. For cinematics, it doesn't do anything amazing, and for dialogue, it's certainly not great, especially when Rouge just goes ah, and the things aren't like synced up and the localization is poor. But I'm gonna have to say I'd probably rate this scene maybe a 6 out of 10 for quality. But overall, it's okay. It's a pretty good scene, and it sets up both the Rouge and Knuckles story quite nicely. The next scene follows Tails, and he's trying to find Sonic on Prison Island after he's just been captured by Gun in the city, as we saw in the scene with Shadow.
There's no mistake about it. This must be the island. It's a secret military base that is reinforced and super strong. It's called Prison Island. I heard the news about it on satellite TV. I still can't believe that Sonic would destroy the military building or rob the bank. Wait for me, okay, Sonic? I'm on my way. What? Hey, look, it's Amy. And Eggman, too. What's Amy doing here? Doesn't matter. I have to help Amy because she's in danger. Tornado transformation!
Yeah, this has got to be one of my least favourite cutscenes in the game. It just feels like a real pace breaker from whatever's gone on before, and it's just purely exposition, which doesn't help, which is really poor because the previous scene shows how you can do exposition then action, like with Knuckles and Rouge, and other than that, there's a poor continuity because as you can see Prison Island, and he says, "Oh, there's Prison Island over there," and he doesn't notice an aircraft carrier that would have been right in front of him with Eggman and Amy. And yet he's surprised when there is an aircraft carrier there and Eggman and Amy are there, and also in the cinematic shot that it shows the island in the distance, you can't see an aircraft carrier in front of him, which would have been right there. And I just think that's really poor continuity, especially when the rest of the game handles it really well, as we'll see later. And not only that, but the cinematic quality of it is really poor too. I mean, like, there's just ocean in the background, flat ocean, and then Tails talking. And some of his dialogue is really strange too when he says, "I saw it on satellite TV." And I mean, satellite TV, we don't really call it that anymore. So that is another aspect of how it's dated poorly. And just some of the dialogue just feels not very well delivered and a bit flat. And overall, I rate this scene a 2 out of 10. I just really don't like it. So this next scene here is quite small, but I find it fairly interesting.
This time I'll let you go, but the next time we meet, you won't be so lucky.
Wow, Tails, you did it! But what are you doing here on this island?
I'm the one who should be asking that question. Don't you know it's dangerous here?
I know, but I'm here to save my hero, Sonic.
Again?
Hurry! I know Eggman's up to no good again.
Okay, you stay here and I'll be right back.
Don't leave without me! I want to help Sonic too!
This scene is okay. It happens after the fight with Dr. Eggman, and Tails seemingly wins. I guess that foreshadows something for later on in the story. A little bit, but not much. It shows Tails has grown since Adventure 1 and he's a lot stronger, and he actually has the confidence to stand up to Eggman. It sets up a dialogue between Amy and Tails about how they're both looking out for each other. And it also sets up a running gag where Amy is ditched by the others because they're just better at handling their situation. And she's never really involved in any plans, so she just gets left behind and caught up in all the issues. So I guess it links into stuff later on in the story and sets up some stuff nicely and continues on Tails' character arc. So I'll rate it a 4 out of 10, but mostly it's just exposition heavy, and there's nothing really important that happens too much in this scene. So the next scene follows Amy, who's just found Sonic in his cell on Prison Island.
keep your voice down. Have no fear. Amy Rose is here.
How'd you get here?
Well, if you gotta know, I caught a ride with Tails. Are you sure you don't need my help? It looks like you could use it.
The reason I'm in here is because of that fake hedgehog.
You mean that black hedgehog?
Did you see it? Where is it now?
If I tell ya, will you marry me?
No way!
I thought I had you this time. That black hedgehog came here with Dr. Eggman.
So, Eggman's behind this, huh?
What's all that writing on the wall anyway? Did you write that? Wait for me, Sonic! He's such a brat sometimes.
Somehow, by divine intervention, Amy manages to find Sonic in a cell, and I guess you could see that as an issue, because it's like, how would Amy, of all people, be able to find Sonic and get through all of Prison Island unscathed? But it's quite a nice scene, because Amy is kind of like got a bit of power in this scene, and she's kind of gloating above Sonic. Somehow, with the Dreamcast animation, you can actually see she's kind of using some body language to kind of show she's got a bit more power over Sonic this time, and like kind of wandering around with a bit of surliness, which you don't really see in this game because, well, I mean, the animations aren't amazing, but there's certainly a step up from Adventure 1. And you can also see in this scene that Sonic is really uncomfortable in the cell, and he keeps pacing up and down, showing like he really, really doesn't like being in tight spaces. And then he's also still jealous of Shadow, as he still calls him a fake hedgehog. And I think it's cool because you can kind of see some flaws in Sonic, that he can't take tight spaces, and he's still jealous of Shadow, and that's nice to again see some flaws in the main character. There's a nice bit of banter between Amy and Sonic, I guess, with her asking him to marry her and stuff. It's kind of cringe though. I never really got on with the Amy Sonic kind of love stuff that goes on. I mean, I don't think love story or sexual tension belongs in the Sonic game, but at least it's better than Knuckles and Rouge. And finally, there's some nice foreshadowing that the cell that Sonic's in belongs to one of the main characters that comes into the plot big time a lot later. And overall, I rate this scene as 6 out of 10. It doesn't do anything amazing, but it's got some nice little bits in it, and it connects to the overall story quite well and develops Amy's character decently, so I rate it pretty good. This next scene is a bit of a classic. It's got a bit of cringe dialogue in there, and some pretty funny voice acting, that kind of thing, but overall it's a pretty solid scene that builds up on the Sonic Shadow rivalry.
Phew. So far, so good. Hey, that's...
That blue hedgehog again, of all places.
I found you, Faker.
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Huh? You're not even good enough to be
I'll
my
make you eat those words.
To start off with, I really like the cinematography of the scene, and they keep the consistency of having Sonic and Shadow separate, often when they're talking or before a battle, and they come together and fight. It's not like they're just always wandering around each other like smoothly. They like to keep in their place, and kind of there's always Shadow up higher than Sonic, and I think that's some pretty good use of imagery there, showing that Shadow maybe thinks he's more dominant, or maybe because it's from Sonic's perspective, maybe he views Shadow as an intimidating figure. I don't know, maybe it's coincidence. I'm looking too deep into a kids game. I also like how Sonic continues to go, I found you, Faker, and keeps calling him a fake hedgehog when he's clearly not. It just again reinforces Sonic's jealousy. And then Shadow hits back and shows a bit of jealousy for Sonic as well, and calls him a fake hedgehog as well. So I just like the rivalry and how it's like it's like bitchiness, and a lot like the other rivalries in the game. And I like the consistent theme of rivalry in the game, because it's not really anything that's touched upon again in other Sonic games. Again, there's good pacing in the next part, because it goes from like a narrative driven cutscene to then really going into the action part.
Shadow, what are you doing? Hurry! Hurry and get back here right now before the island blows up with you on it!
Blows up? Gotta get out of here. Find Amy and Tails right away.
I think the second half of this cutscene really makes it for me. It uses really good cinematography with zooming in closely on Sonic and Shadow's faces as they stare at each other in contempt, kind of worn out by the battle, only to then be interrupted by the walkie-talkie that Shadow has that Eggman is communicating by, basically yelling "get the fuck off the island" to Shadow, only for Sonic to hear it and go "blows up" in that kind of voice, completely upping the ante in the stakes again and setting you up really nicely for the next level, especially with the Green Forest music playing in the background, really building up the level. And I like how it also transitions into the level afterwards, the music, which is quite nice, and there's no like gap in between, so it really keeps up the pacing well there, and it makes for the setup of one of the best levels in the game as well. I really like also the rivalry that you see just at the end between Sonic and Shadow, just the silence kind of between them while they do like stare at each other, shows maybe slightly forming mutual respect that you then again see later in the story towards the end of the Light story, and I like that, how this is starting to set the foundations for that too. So overall, I rate this scene, probably the second half of the scene, probably 10 out of 10. I think it's maybe one of the best in the game. This next cutscene is one of the only ones in the game which is cinematic, and I think is like pre-rendered and all of that stuff, and it's really good for that, other than a few fatal flaws.
Citizens of Earth, lend me your ears and listen to me very carefully. My name is Dr. Eggman, the world's greatest scientist, and soon to be the world's greatest ruler. Now witness the beginning of the greatest empire of all time.
One of the highlights of this scene is gotta be Eggman. I mean, his narration over the destruction of the moon is pretty funny, and the manic laughter at the end kind of fits in with the cartoony supervillain persona he's trying to put across in the Light story at this point. I mean, you get to see a deeper, darker aspect of Eggman in the Dark story in the last story, but it does a good job at kind of making it kind of cartoony, but also set some really good tensions for the plot. And along with that, it keeps up the pace and puts the story into a new level where the heroes have a time limit, and it feels like things are actually starting to kick into motion properly with the plot, and it doesn't drag along as much as it was in some previous scenes like the one with Tails, and I think that's really good. Not only that, but I think it's also really cinematically well done with different shots, and I think the egg cannon thing, I can't remember what you call it, I think it's just the cannon firing at the moon, is actually, it looks pretty good for 2001, that's not bad. But where this scene has its fatal flaw is in the human character, body language and facial animations. I mean, for a start off, you have the crackhead kid with the blue eyes, and then you've got the people watching the TV which like look like Play-Doh models, honestly. And just the facial animations of the humans, it looks really stiff and weird, and I know it was an early time for facial animations and that, but it's really dated badly. I guess it could be noted this film only came out, for example, 4 years I think after the first Toy Story, which is one of the first things to do facial animation, and even that looks janky. for a massive million budget film, but nowadays it looks really bad with the facial animation, and it shows how much they've come along in the past 10 years or so. Other than that, I don't have much more to say, but I rate this scene, I reckon, a 7 out of 10. What draws it back is definitely the poor animation. This next scene follows Sonic, Tails and Amy back in the city after the moon has exploded.
Eggman! Oh, that creep never gives up!
But how did he manage to harness all that energy?
It's got to be the Chaos Emeralds. Yeah, that's the reason they were looking for him! Tails?
The Chaos Emeralds are like magnets. They have the power to attract each other. I can use that to find where Eggman is.
Freeze! Put your hands up in the air and get off the ground!
I'll take care of the police while you try and find a way out of here. Find Eggman!
Got it!
The three of you? That means me, too! Hey, wait!
This scene definitely isn't one of my favourites. Amy is again used just as a tool for exposition, really going, look, half the moon is gone, as if we hadn't seen it in the previous scene and it wasn't obvious that they were looking up at the moon. I think again it's just too full of exposition, and they talk quite a lot about the Chaos Emeralds, and I guess they're adding to previously established lore that is added on later into the main story, but I feel they could have done it in a more exciting way than just talking about it. And then there's a little bit of action at the end, although it's very little and it's not very good, because it's just the gun people going, freeze, don't run, and I just think it's just a bit boring of a scene. It's not very intense, especially leading into the next bit of the story, and it just breaks up the pace a bit. Not only that, but Amy again is just used as the comic relief at the end of the scene, which, while it is a bit funny, the fun and gag grows a little thin when it's at the end. It's in every single Amy scene. Other than that, I'd probably just say it's about 4 out of 10 scene. There's not really much to it. This next scene is just after Knuckles' level in Classic Mine, and it's back in the city with the rest of the gang.
Sheesh, there always seems to be a lot of police around when you don't need them. Tails, any news yet?
For some reason, I'm not getting a signal from the 6 remaining Chaos Emeralds. Maybe Eggman took the emeralds into outer space.
Outer space? Knuckles!
Hey guys, long time no see. I must have got lost in the mines. Looking for the Master Emerald pieces was tougher than I thought it would be. Where are we anyway? Hey, where are you going?
Move aside, Knuckles!
I managed to find the transcripts between Eggman and the President in the government computer. I'm following the President's limo right now. If we get into the limo, we can trace the call to find Eggman.
Okay, let's meet up there.
Hey! Wait for me, Tails!
This scene really is a mixed bag for me. I think it has some really weird quirks to it. Like, I think the fact that Sonic and Tails have a phone is kind of weird, and how Knuckles suddenly just appears from a drain from Aquatic Mine, which, if you look at the world map on Sonic Adventure 2, is really far away. In fact, this is a problem with the previous scene too. When they're back in the city, it would have taken ages to get back from Prison Island back to the city. I mean, the continuity there with the main world map feels a bit strange. And also the coincidence that Knuckles just so happens to find them at that exact manhole. It just seems a bit odd, and the continuity is not really great there. However, I think it ups the stakes in the scene a little bit, as you know, it just seems at this point that they're just trying to hunt down the Chaos Emeralds, and it all seems quite similar to the older Sonic games, but I think this really upped the stakes when it says we're going into outer space. And I get it's been done in previous Sonic games, but to see it, to then have it like a build up to it in the next scenes, I think it's really good, and it kind of sets up and builds the story even more here. Even with Eggman's kind of just countdown in the previous scene, it builds upon that a lot, and I like that. I think also people have also complained, I've seen, about Tails just somehow knowing about the transcripts between Eggman and the President and all that, but it happens that he has a computer on his mech, and so that's not really much of a problem, although I guess you could argue why the fuck does he have a computer on his mech, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's a fucking Sonic game. This doesn't really need to be that much detail into it, and of course Tails is an engineer, that kind of thing, and he's quite savvy with technology, so it's not that big a deal. And again, at the end of the scene, Amy is again used for more of a running gag with where they run off without her. Also, I quite like in this scene how kind of Tails takes lead and just kind of drives off to find Eggman and the President, which I quite like. Again, this is building upon Tails' character from Sonic Adventure 1 and how he's kind of grown as this character. And I think maybe this scene does more than it's credited for, so I'm going to actually give it a 6.5 out of 10 because it still has those continuity errors and just some weird little quirks to it that bring it down. This next scene takes place shortly after the gang go through the Sonic All-Stars Racing prototype and they catch up with the President.
Mr. President, reports show that since the incident 3 hours ago, the country is in turmoil. Our financial communities are impacted, and our satellite communications are down. An emergency meeting has been called. Mr. President, this is a national crisis.
Spare me the details. Exactly just what is it that you want? Dr. Eggman.
Well, let's just get down to business then, shall we, Mr. President? I won't bore you with all the details since I know you are a very busy man. Mr. President, my demands are quite simple. Surrender to the Eggman Empire and make no attempts to resist. Otherwise, your country will cease to exist. You have 24 hours to give me your answer.
No way!
What the?
Sonic,
Eggman Empire. Yeah, right.
What the heck's going on here?
Don't worry,
no.
Mr. President.
What did you
Everything's
do?
under control. Just leave it to us. Got it, Tails?
I got it! He's transmitting from the space colony Ark.
Okay, let's move it!
Wait up, Sonic!
Hey, you, wait!
Mr. President, we're receiving an incoming signal from our agent.
This scene is often met with complaints due to the use of humanoid characters within, like, with the characters interacting with them. And although, yeah, there are some issues with the scene in that regard, I don't see the issue with using human characters because it kind of builds the Sonic world up a little bit. It makes it kind of links it to our own world too. I think that's what it's trying to do also, and I don't really see that much of an issue with it. I mean, lots of other universes that have characters like Sonic use humans as well. I mean, the Mario universe, which the Sonic universe is often compared to, uses human characters mixed with like Toads and fucking Yoshis and shit, but no one really cares about that. So I don't really see how it's an issue in Sonic that much. I think one issue with this scene is how Sonic kind of interacts with the President. I think the President isn't like surprised enough, like, what the fuck, why are there little fucking creatures in my car taking my information while I talk, and they somehow know the guy I'm talking to on the TV screen, right? He should be questioning it a little more, and so should the Secretary. The Secretary's just sitting back doing nothing at that point, which is a little weird. I think the ultimatum that Eggman's trying to set down with the President could be some kind of allusion to terrorism at the time, with, you know, like terrorists giving threat to the President, and the President not quite knowing what to do, feeling kind of threat to the power there, and like seeming a bit tame when trying to negotiate. And I don't know, I think there are some sort of allusions to terrorism, you know, Eggman maybe taking the place of someone like Osama bin Laden or something, and maybe the President being someone like George W. Bush, not quite sure though. That this is all kind of just guesses really, but I feel like there's definitely some allusion there. I think also maybe the president is a bit painted to be a bit of an arsehole, to be honest. Like the secretary reads him all the issues that are happening, and he's just like, oh fuck it, spare me the details. So yeah, I think maybe he's painted to not be the nicest character, and I think there might have been some cut content there because it's not really developed upon more than that. Because there's also a bit I think it's somewhere in the menus or at the end of the game that was cut, where the secretary basically says, yeah, these guys are heroes and you're just basically a dickhead to the president. I mean, she didn't actually say he was a dickhead, but still. There's something left in the game now, and I think there's some cut content, which makes sense. I think also the introduction of Sonic and Tails in the scene is quite good. I mean, they're like both. They take the scene like by storm. They take Eggman by storm, and the president and secretary by surprise, obviously. And they're just like they're just showed to be taking completely control of the scene. And after Eggman kind of asserts his authority with the moon cannon, I think this is the first time they kind of showed dominance over Eggman since that point. Maybe showing a turn in the tides for the characters at this point, leading up towards the end of the light story. One final pretty good thing about this scene is it links nicely to the dark story at this point, because at the end of the scene the secretary says, oh, you're getting an incoming call for the agent, which turns out to be Rouge the Bat. But you only learn this in the dark story, which I guess pushes you to play the dark story, which some may see as criticism, as you might not understand it when you're first playing the light story. But it's nice how the two stories there kind of link together. Overall, I'd give this scene an 8 out of 10, which I think is pretty good, because there's some issues with it, with the president not being surprised about Sonic and Tails, and some weird themes that aren't really well kind of built up upon with the president, but it's nice they're there. And it's overall just a pretty good scene. It does quite a lot, and I think it does it well mostly. This next scene takes place in the desert, far away from the city, with the gang trying to get inside a pyramid which holds a shuttle which they can use to access the space colony Ark.
Inside that pyramid?
I saw Eggman go inside the pyramid. And more importantly, I saw that Batgirl go inside with him as well. But you saw them too, right?
Well, yeah.
We should be able to get into outer space from there. I don't know what this space colony is all about, but I'll find and destroy that cannon, and then kick their Imperial butts.
All right.
I'll go and find the entrance.
This scene's really good. I like seeing the whole gang together as one, which is the first time in the game this actually happens, showing how they're actually really strong together, and kind of builds upon the success of what happened in the last scene, where Tails and Sonic and that working together actually really paid off well. I think Sonic in this scene is not at his best, with a shitty joke about kicking Imperial butt, which fits into more kiddie vibe of the game, and it just kind of reminds me of the more modern Sonic titles, where it did go down pandering to kids route, which is not great. I think Tails in the scene really thrives, as he kind of leads the charge into hidden base, which we see him do, and shows his independence from the group. I think Knuckles in this scene is actually really interesting. At first I didn't really think much of him. I just thought he was just kind of trying to be a bit stoical, and but then I realised that actually he seems a bit obsessed with Rouge at this point. As he said, he mentions, yeah, well, Eggman might be a threat, but more importantly, we need to find that Batgirl, which kind of shows his obsession with Rouge, which is also mentioned in lyrics, which I will look at a later date. It mentioned in the lyrics, I think his first level, of where he refers to Rouge as sexy.
Never seen a Hedgehog spit like a menace. Wild cannon fun, I gotta chase a bat, huh? Yeah, Rouge, she's sexy and smooth. A double cross spot thief, that's out for my Jews, I'm feeling her in mysterious ways. That's why I stay on point like.
So it's interesting his slight obsession with her here, which builds up to something later, as we'll see. And I think also Amy in this scene, is used really well too, because she's not used as comic relief, which is one of the only times in this game where she isn't. and she's just kind of part of the gang, you know. It doesn't feel like there's any forced kind of relationship there between Sonic and Amy, as there may have done in previous scenes and previous games and later games. They just still feel like a group of friends trying to do what's right for the world. I quite like that. Overall, I rate this scene an 8 out of 10. I think it's actually, do you know what, 8.5. I reckon this scene does very little wrong. In fact, it's really good. The only downside to it is actually Sonic. So yeah, I'm going to say 8.5 out of 10. Really good scene. So I think that's where I'm going to end the video, as part 1 of 5 of an analysis of Sonic Adventure 2's cutscenes in the style of a GCSE English literature kind of paper type thing. I quite enjoy doing this. I'm definitely going to make a part 2, hopefully get around to making a part 3, 4 and 5, but this definitely is a project that won't be done probably before January next year. So stay tuned if you want to see the whole series, because I will bring everyone out probably. In the meantime, I've got some other projects on the go, which should keep you entertained between these ones. But yeah, I think I have a kind of plan set out for the channel for the next 4 or 5 months or so. So yeah, if you're new, subscribe. If you're old, stay around. All 5 of my subscribers, and hope to see you soon.